Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are taking a look at all of the new archetypes from 2024. Keep in mind, this is a ranking for archetypes that basically came out in 2024 from the OCG as well as the TCG. So we're just trying to kind of line it up there. We have to draw a line somewhere, so some stuff may have just missed the cut, or there may be some small exceptions here, and I'll explain them when we get there. But really cool. We got like 22-ish new archetypes. There's other things maybe that aren't on this list that you could maybe consider a new archetype, but these are the ones that I felt like actually deserved that kind of qualification. And let's get into this thing, because there's a lot of fun stuff from this year. So one by one, let's do it. Starting off, Voiceless Voice. Oh, also real quick with the tiers. So S tier to me is like stuff that has been solidly in tier 1. You know, since it's in its first year of being created. A tier is probably like around that tier 1.5, tier 2 deck that has kind of like gotten up there and really been definitely a part of the metagame, but not like maybe top tier. B tier is definitely more rogue stuff. That's just solid rogue. C tier for me is stuff that probably isn't good enough to top a regional type thing, but maybe has some potential that you can at least see and be like, okay, I could see a world where they actually do get in with like a one little wave they could get up there. And then D tier is like anime level stuff, anime level cards that just aren't gonna make it in the competitive scene. So, all right, starting off, Voiceless Voice. This to me is a solid A. This deck has floated around that tier 1.5, tier 2 almost the whole year. They've really been solid, and they're actually doing better as of late again, which is pretty cool to see. So yeah, this one feels like a quintessential A for me. Next up here we have Ascend. Ascend has seen almost no success regionally, so I can't even give it B tier. This one to me is C tier. There's some cards this archetype has that are interesting, and you could see a world where new support could kind of help them actually get to playable, but for now they're not there. Millennium, another cool one. I would actually put Millennium at the bottom of A tier. This is a deck that has topped YCSs. Also, its engine has also been used in other decks, so that have also been placed highly in tournaments. So I think this one's like a bottom of A tier because you just don't see it in volume, but it's shown that it like absolutely can come through and compete against the top decks. Shining Sarcophagus is another B tier for me. This is Rogue. And it's even probably lower tier Rogue. It's not even like higher tier. It does some cool stuff. It's consistent, but it just feels like its overall output just is not strong enough. Your payoffs are just not fully worth it, in my opinion. But I could see a world where support gets them a higher Rogue for sure. Argo Stars. This is a new archetype that kind of is coming out soon. I know we don't have this one yet, so you could potentially just not even include this one because it's not coming out until Supreme Darkness, but whatever. I wanted to talk about it here. This one definitely sits in C tier for me. This deck will not do anything on release. There's a world where you need to, you know, a good, strong second wave comes in Alliance Insight and gets this archetype better, and they do have some things going for them, but not nearly enough yet. Tenpai Dragon, this is an easy S tier. This deck has been floating around tier 1 like all year since it got printed. So nothing much to describe there. Deck's terrifying. Okay, Metal Morph. This is a weird archetype to rank because like as a pure deck, it's probably like C tier. Like it does not much on its own, but as an assisting engine, it's actually been in like some Dragon Link lists and stuff, some like Bestial control decks where I've seen this engine played in here. So as a small engine, we've seen it be part of regional decks, so we'll give it B tier to be nice, but it's definitely lower B tier because it's like a 2-card engine. That's it. So yeah. All right, next up, Mimigul. Mimigul to me is probably higher B tier. I don't think it's good enough to be A tier. I think maybe the deck is actually good enough, but it's kind of had some issues. Mimigul getting a good second wave coming out timeline-wise at the exact same time that like Dominus Impulse comes out is absolutely brutal because that card really does hinder the deck's ceiling. So I do think the deck still has good potential, but and I think we know it can top a regional, but just not enough to get into like that tier 2 discussion. Primite's a really interesting one. I'd probably throw it here for now. I do still think it's a decent little engine, but I think the bigger thing we'll see next year once they get their support from Supreme Darkness, this deck immediately becomes like part of an engine that part of a deck that is going to compete for like tier 1 status with Blue Eyes. So that's really, really cool. You'll see how good it is soon, but for now it probably sits in like B tier. I think it can be good. We've seen it be part of certain decks that have topped, but nothing higher than that. So It's definitely B tier for me. Yep. Ryzeal might be the top of S tier. I mean, we've seen how good it is in the OCG. It's coming out like this week, so we don't know exactly how it's going to work in the TCG, but I have to imagine it's going to be pretty strong. So I think S tier makes sense here. Fiendsmith, you could even put this above Ryzeal just because of the splashability, just in the sheer numbers of decks that have topped with this engine in it. And now, at the most recent YCS, we've even seen it be the main engine, the actual, almost a pure Fiendsmith deck. It's like Fiendsmith Kashtira, but, like, same idea. Malice, I have to put Malice, I think, in S tier too. I think it's going to rank maybe below Tenpai overall, just because Tenpai has just been doing it all year, and I think Malice can be somewhat susceptible to, you know, just stuff like Lancia. If everybody has 3 Lancia on their side, this deck becomes tough to, like, keep in tier 1, but I definitely think it's going to be really solid, for sure. Okay, next up we move to Goblin Bikers. I think Goblin Bikers could almost be argued to be, like, bottom of A tier, especially as we move into, like, Ryzeal format, but, like, since we're not there yet, I'd probably put it at the top of B tier. It seems some solid tops. It really is like a solid little engine, and especially since it can combine with just like other Exceed engines, it's really cool. And its matchup with Ryzeal would be nice, so we'll keep an eye out for it. It could get better here shortly. Toy Box, because it's a small engine, it probably sits at the back end of B tier, but we've seen it be part of White Forest decks, and White Forest have some tops this year, so we'll throw White Forest right here next to it. It's been solid. I think this will move up maybe after Supreme Darkness, but for now it's probably solid B tier, just not too much success on like the higher level. It's probably not tier 2 yet, but it could get there very soon. Okay, Clear. This is D tier. I think this may be the only D tier archetype on this list as I'm looking at it. It doesn't have much, man. It really doesn't offer much. It's just not enough. There's some there's some interesting things about it, but man, this deck just really doesn't do much. I don't even see how they would fix this archetype with like less than 5 cards, so I can't even willingly put it in C tier. Next we have Ryuge. I have no idea. Ryuge is a hard one to rank for me. I'd probably put Ryuge at like the bottom of B tier. We just haven't seen much from it in the OCG. It could still be splashed into some decks as an engine, so maybe we could put it up a little higher here, just because like as an engine we could see it see play even with its first wave. But I'm not convinced it's going to be like tier A or higher. So for me, B feels fine. Yubel fits right into S tier. Don't worry too much about the ranking on these, but yeah, it was the best deck in the game at one point. It's still really solid, tier 1.5 at least right now, and it definitely deserves to be up here. I know Yubel's not technically a new archetype, but like, come on. Those cards hadn't been played in 15 years, so like it basically became a new iteration of itself, a new version. So I count it. Flame Swordsman. I think Flame Swordsman is probably top of C tier. Like, it's not even the best version to play in for Noble Knight now, so it's just kind of like, what do you need to even become playable now? You need like a whole nother wave, or like something that specifically ties this engine to Noble Knight to make it like better again without Isold. Like, this engine just like it has some decent pieces, right? You have a Stratos, you have some good search cards, but not good enough overall. Azamina also jumps up here into S tier just as a new addition to the Sinful Spoils engine, so generically we're seeing it see play, and of course in Snake Eye variants it's automatically in there, so yeah, that's an easy S tier. Ragnarika, this is B tier. It's been good enough to get some regional tops as parts of certain decks, mainly like plants, so it floats around here or there as a deck that can top with this engine, but it's still been pretty underwhelming overall. I actually thought the mechanic behind this deck was kind of cool, but they did not capitalize on it with strong additional support cards, so we might just kind of be at the mercy of waiting another year or two for Konami to drop like an additional wave, and maybe that'll get them there. And the last thing we're talking about today is Golden Allure Queen. This did come out this year, even though we're not going to get it until March of next year, but the Allure Queen stuff is pretty cool. You know, I want to put them at the top of C tier just because I really do think there's potential here, especially since we got Chaos Allure Queen in... since we got Chaos Allure Queen in... what set is that? I guess that was the last set, I think, but... so, like, her just being, like, a decent extender, and she equips stuff from Grave, so, like, she could help facilitate stuff like Magistus Chorozo when that card comes out. Like, there's definitely some good potential here. It's not seen too much play in the OCG, I don't think, this year. And maybe that'll depend on how good this new like Magistus Link is. Could make this card more playable, but we'll see. But they do have some cool things. They get 2 spells that are basically like full-on like Rhoda cards. And they get the new Link 3 that actually is like a double interruption if you just play the one of, if you play like a one of Allure Queen monster in your deck. So like there's some cool stuff you can do here. I'm just not sure it's all the way there, but the potential is definitely there. There is a world where these cards actually do become quite good. So we'll see. But anyway, that's where we're at. That's kind of where we end up here. I think Konami's done a pretty good job overall. If you're looking at like the average here, you've got like 5 archetypes you could argue are like below average, and you've got these B ones are kind of just right in the middle at average. It's like in the rogue level. That's where you'd want most decks to either end up or above, and then you have 8 decks above. So they, overall, Konami's averaged making pretty competitive archetypes. Do I kind of wish that some of these were maybe not as good as they've been? Maybe. Is Yu-Gi-Oh! Perfect? No, but I like looking back on it and taking a more backed up scope over the whole year and be like, oh, even though I've been disappointed in some new cards, some new archetypes, Konami has done a pretty good job overall at making them viable somewhat. So I think that's kind of cool to see. But there you go. Those are my rankings. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you agree or disagree, let me know your thoughts there. Is there anything else I missed? I don't think I missed any archetypes, but there are weird ones. Excuse me. There are weird ones here like Argo Star that could actually count as a 2025 archetype, and maybe we'll put them on next year's list as well, because they'll probably get a second wave that maybe makes them playable in Alliance Insight and stuff. So we'll see. But these lists are loose. We're just having fun here, so it doesn't matter too much about timeline wise what fits and what doesn't. It's just I want to talk about the ones that feel the most relevant. But there we go. I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know your thoughts down below, like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.